My name is Sean, 69 years old, and retired from construction contracting in Portland. My only daughter, Amanda, 34 now, has been my world since her mother passed away when she was just 12. Recently, I gave her my life savings, $200,000, to help buy her dream house. I felt such pride watching her achieve stability until those shocking words hit me like a sledgehammer. Get out. You're not welcome here. If you're watching this from your home, take a moment to share where you're tuning in from and hit that subscribe button while I tell you what happened next. I spent over 40 years in the construction business, building homes for other families while carefully saving for my own future. Never made a fortune, but I was disciplined with money. Every extra dollar went into retirement accounts, and I lived modestly in the same small 3-bedroom house I bought when Amanda was just a toddler. Amanda was always a bright, curious child. Her mother Sarah and I adored her from the moment she arrived. We were young parents, both 22 when Amanda was born, but we were committed to giving her everything we could. Sarah worked as a school teacher while I took on additional weekend jobs beyond my regular construction work. The extra income helped us provide ballet lessons, science camp, and the little extras that made childhood special. Our life changed dramatically when Amanda turned 12. Sarah started having persistent headaches and fatigue. At first, we thought it was just stress from teaching, but the diagnosis blindsided us completely. Stage 4, brain cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months, but my beautiful Sarah was gone in 4. Those days were the darkest of my life. Suddenly becoming a single father while processing my own grief was overwhelming. Amanda withdrew into herself, struggling with the profound loss of her mother. We were both adrift, but somehow that shared pain eventually brought us closer. I remember the night, about 3 months after the funeral, when Amanda crawled into my bed crying. We stayed up until dawn, looking through old photo albums and telling stories about Sarah. Something shifted between us that night. The teenage years that followed were challenging but rewarding. I learned to braid hair, awkwardly discussed periods and boys, and attended every school event possible. My crew bosses were understanding when I needed to leave early for parent-teacher conferences or soccer games. Amanda blossomed, despite her loss, becoming a confident, ambitious young woman. She maintained excellent grades and eventually earned a scholarship to the state university. College was still expensive despite the scholarship. I refinanced the house to cover what her financial aid didn't. Never once did I regret it, especially seeing how hard she worked. Amanda graduated with honors in marketing, and I have never felt prouder than watching her walk across that stage in her cap and gown. She was the first in our family to earn a college degree. After graduation, Amanda moved to Seattle for her first professional job at a digital marketing agency. The starting salary wasn't impressive, but she was ecstatic about getting her foot in the door. We spoke weekly by phone, and I visited a few times each year. She seemed happy building her career, advancing from junior associate to team manager within 4 years. Everything changed when Amanda met Tyler. She was 32, and he was 28, a smooth-talking investment analyst at a firm run by his father. From the beginning, something about him bothered me, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. He came from serious money, the kind that shapes your view of the world, the kind that makes you believe you deserve certain things, just because. I first noticed the changes in Amanda after they had been dating for about 6 months. Her calls became less frequent, and when we did talk, she seemed more interested in describing expensive restaurants and weekend getaways than telling me about her actual life. Her Instagram changed too, suddenly filled with designer clothes and fancy cocktails in upscale bars. When they visited Portland, Amanda seemed almost embarrassed by my modest home. She made comments about the outdated kitchen and the lawn that needed maintenance. This was the same house she had grown up in, the one filled with memories of her mother, but suddenly it wasn't good enough. I tried not to take it personally. People change, especially when they fall in love. I wanted to support her happiness, so I smiled and nodded when she talked about Tyler's family vacation home in Aspen or their plans to visit wine country. The engagement came after just 10 months of dating. The ring was enormous, a diamond so large it looked uncomfortable on her slender hand. When I asked about wedding plans, Amanda mentioned something about a destination ceremony in Hawaii, but Tyler's parents intervened. They insisted on a proper society wedding at their country club outside Seattle. To my surprise, Amanda agreed to scale back to a more traditional but still elegant affair. I appreciated the gesture since I was covering half the wedding costs. The $25,000 I contributed stretched my finances thin, but seeing Amanda happy was worth it. The wedding was beautiful but felt oddly impersonal, with 300 guests, most of whom were Tyler's family connections and business associates. After the honeymoon in Bali, Amanda and Tyler settled into a luxury apartment in downtown Seattle. The rent was astronomical, almost $4,000 monthly, but their combined incomes made it manageable. Amanda had been promoted again, and Tyler's position at his father's firm came with generous bonuses. Still, I noticed a restlessness whenever we spoke. Amanda would complain about limited closet space or the noise from the street below. Tyler would chime in about their neighbors or the building's inadequate fitness center. These seemed like trivial concerns to me, but I recognized the symptoms of wanting more. It was a hunger I had never understood, this constant reaching for the next bigger, better thing. During one video call, Amanda panned her phone around their apartment, pointing out what she called the cramped living room and miniature balcony. I bit my tongue, instead of reminding her that their place was twice the size of the home where she grew up. Some lessons, I supposed, people need to learn on their own. The house hunting began innocently enough. Amanda mentioned they were just looking at properties in some of Seattle's more exclusive neighborhoods. Each weekend became a tour of open houses, with Amanda sending me photos of grand staircases, gourmet kitchens, and manicured backyards. Tyler had been promoted to senior analyst, and Amanda had taken a higher-paying position with a larger marketing firm. Their combined income was impressive for a young couple, around $220,000 annually, but the houses they coveted were well beyond their means. "Dad, you would not believe the house we saw today," Amanda gushed during one of our calls. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a home office space, and the most gorgeous kitchen with marble countertops. And the neighborhood has the best schools in the city. "Schools?" I asked, surprised. "Are you and Tyler thinking about starting a family soon?" There was a pause. "Well, not immediately, but we want to be prepared for the future. All the financial advisors say real estate is the best investment, especially in a market like Seattle." I nodded, though she couldn't see me through the phone. "That makes sense. What price range are you looking in?" Another pause. Longer this time. "This particular house is listed at $650,000. It's actually a great deal for the neighborhood." I nearly choked on my coffee. That was triple what my house in Portland was worth. "That sounds like quite a step up from your apartment. Have you talked to a mortgage broker about financing?" "Tyler's working on it," she replied quickly. "His dad has connections at several banks." The house hunting continued for weeks, but that particular property kept coming up in conversation. Amanda described the bay windows in the master bedroom, the walk-in closets, the soaking tub in the ensuite bathroom. She had clearly fallen in love with it, and from the intensity in her voice, I suspected she wouldn't be satisfied with anything less. Then came the call I had been half expecting. Amanda was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "The bank turned us down," she sobbed. "We don't have enough for the down payment, and Tyler's student loans are affecting our debt-to-income ratio. Someone else is going to buy our perfect house." "I'm sorry, sweetheart," I said, genuinely feeling her disappointment. "Maybe there are other houses that would work for your budget?" "You don't understand, Dad. This is the house. The location is perfect. The schools are amazing. The market is only going up, and we'll never find something this good again." Her voice hardened slightly. "We need $130,000 for the down payment. We have about $30,000 saved." My stomach tightened as I realized where this conversation was heading. "Dad," Amanda continued, her voice softening again, "I know you've been saving for retirement, and I would never ask if it wasn't important. But this is our future, our forever home, the place where your grandchildren will grow up someday. That's a lot of money, Amanda, I said carefully. I'd need to think about it. It would just be a loan, she insisted. Once we build some equity or get our next promotions, we'll pay you back with interest. I promise. I told her I needed time to consider it, and we ended the call. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about my retirement accounts. I had just over $220,000 saved, plus my house that was worth about $200,000. Not a fortune, but enough for a modest retirement if I was careful. Giving Amanda $100,000 would significantly impact my financial security. But then I thought about Sarah, how she never got to see Amanda graduate college or get married, how she would have wanted me to help our daughter if I could. Was holding on to money more important than helping Amanda secure her future? A week later, Amanda and Tyler visited Portland. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I had helped Amanda with her homework all those years ago. Tyler had brought financial projections showing how they planned to repay me within 5 years. The documents looked professional, full of charts and graphs that seemed impressive, but were difficult for me to fully understand. "Dad," Amanda said, reaching for my hand, "don't you want us to have what you never could provide for Mom? A beautiful home in a safe neighborhood? Financial security?" That comment stung. Sarah and I had been happy in our modest home. We had chosen experiences over possessions, camping trips over luxury vacations. But maybe Amanda was right. Maybe Sarah would have wanted more if we could have afforded it. "We've actually been discussing something else," Tyler interjected smoothly. "The house has a finished basement that could easily be converted into a private apartment. If you wanted to sell your place here in Portland, you could move in with us temporarily while looking for something suitable in Seattle. It would give you a chance to be closer to Amanda." The idea caught me off guard. I had lived in Portland my entire life. All my friends were here. But the thought of being closer to Amanda, especially if grandchildren were in the future, was appealing. "We'd love to have you, Dad," Amanda added enthusiastically. "We could have family dinners together. You could help us learn about home maintenance. It would be perfect until you find your own place." "How long do you think I might stay with you?" I asked. "As long as you need," Tyler assured me. "No rush at all. We want this to work for everyone." After more discussion and several days of contemplation, I made my decision. I would sell my house and give Amanda and Tyler $200,000, much more than they had originally asked for. The extra money would allow them to make some immediate improvements to the property and establish an emergency fund. In return, I would stay with them for a few months, while finding a smaller place in Seattle. We met with my financial advisor, who cautioned me about giving away such a large portion of my retirement savings. He suggested a formal loan agreement with a repayment schedule, but Amanda looked so hurt by the suggestion that I decided against it. These were not strangers. This was my daughter and son-in-law. I trusted them to honor their word. The next week, I listed my house with a local realtor. The Portland market was hot, and within days I had multiple offers. I accepted one for $220,000, $20,000 above asking price. The buyers wanted a quick closing, which worked perfectly with our plans. As I began packing up 35 years of memories, I felt both excitement and trepidation. Change is never easy, especially at 69, but the thought of being closer to Amanda made it worthwhile. I donated most of my furniture to a local charity, keeping only a few cherished pieces and personal belongings that would fit in the guest room of Amanda and Tyler's new house. The day before closing on my house sale, I transferred $200,000 to Amanda and Tyler's account. The remaining $20,000, plus my modest savings, would be my cushion until I found a new place and settled in Seattle. "You have no idea what this means to us, Dad," Amanda said, tears in her eyes as she showed me the bank confirmation. "This is the start of something amazing for our family." I believed her completely. Selling my home of 35 years was more emotional than I had anticipated. Every room held memories. The living room where Amanda took her first steps, the kitchen table where Sarah and I had countless conversations over coffee, the backyard where we had summer barbecues with neighbors and friends. As I handed over the keys to the young couple who bought the place, I felt a deep sense of loss mixed with hope for their future there. The closing on Amanda and Tyler's new house happened the following week. I flew to Seattle for the occasion, arriving at the title company office to find Amanda practically vibrating with excitement. Tyler looked confident and pleased as he signed paper after paper. When it was done and the keys were handed over, Amanda squealed and jumped into my arms. "We did it, Dad. We actually did it," she cried, and for a moment, she was my little girl again, the one who used to leap into my arms when I came home from work. The house was indeed impressive, a handsome craftsman style with a wide front porch and mature landscaping. The previous owners had maintained it beautifully, preserving original woodwork while updating the electrical and plumbing systems. The neighborhood was clearly affluent, with luxury vehicles parked in driveways and professionally designed gardens fronting each property. Inside, the house was even more striking. Hardwood floors gleamed throughout the main level. The kitchen featured the promised marble countertops, professional-grade appliances, and custom cabinetry. Upstairs, the master suite was larger than my entire first apartment, with a walk-in closet and bathroom that belonged in a high-end hotel. The finished basement that would temporarily be my domain was comfortable, though not as luxurious as the rest of the house. It had a bedroom, small sitting area, and three-quarter bathroom. The ceilings were a bit low for my taste, and the windows were small, but it was more than adequate for a short-term stay. "What do you think, Dad?" Amanda asked as she showed me around the space. "We can get you a bigger TV for down here, and maybe a more comfortable chair." "This is perfect," I assured her. "More than enough space for me while I look for my own place." That first night, we celebrated with champagne and takeout from an expensive sushi restaurant. Tyler toasted to new beginnings and family togetherness, and Amanda added, "to Dad," without whom none of this would be possible. I felt warm with happiness and the satisfaction of having helped make my daughter's dreams come true. The first week passed pleasantly. I helped with small projects around the house, fixing a squeaky door hinge and adjusting some cabinet doors that didn't quite align. Amanda cooked dinner most evenings, and we ate together at their elegant dining table, catching up on each other's days. Tyler seemed genuinely interested in my construction stories, asking thoughtful questions about the industry and how it had changed over the decades. By the second week, however, I began noticing subtle shifts in the household dynamics. Tyler started coming home later, claiming long hours at the office. When he was home, he and Amanda would often whisper in the kitchen, their conversation stopping abruptly when I entered the room. Once, I overheard Tyler say something about timeline and too long, but couldn't catch the full context. I tried to make myself useful and unobtrusive. I kept to my basement area most mornings, venturing out mainly for meals, and when invited to join them in the living room for evening television. I began searching online for apartments in the area, shocked by the rental prices in Seattle compared to Portland. A decent one-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood would cost at least $2,000 per month, a significant portion of my Social Security income. Around the third week, Tyler's parents came to visit. Harold and Patricia Wilson were exactly as I had imagined them, impeccably dressed, reserved, and subtly condescending. Patricia's eyes widened slightly when Tyler introduced me as Amanda's father who was staying with them for a while. Harold shook my hand firmly, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Sean worked in construction," Tyler explained, as though translating a foreign concept. He actually had some helpful insights on the house inspection before we bought. "How useful," Patricia replied, her tone suggesting the opposite. "And how long will you be visiting, Sean?" Before I could answer, Amanda jumped in. "Dad's just staying until he finds the right place. Real estate is so competitive in Seattle right now." "Indeed," Harold nodded. "The market favors sellers. Not the best time to buy, perhaps." That evening, Tyler and Amanda hosted a dinner party for Harold, Patricia, and several of Tyler's colleagues from the investment firm. I offered to make myself scarce, but Amanda insisted I join them. "Your family, Dad. Of course you should be there." The dinner was elegant, with Amanda serving complicated dishes she had never cooked during her visits to Portland. The conversation revolved around investments, market trends, and people whose names I didn't recognize. I sat quietly, feeling increasingly out of place. During a lull in the conversation, Harold turned to me. "So, Sean, what are your plans now that you've sold your home in Portland?" "I'm looking at apartments here in Seattle," I replied. "Nothing too fancy, just something comfortable and close enough to visit Amanda regularly." "Dad's been a huge help with the house already," Amanda interjected. "He fixed that annoying squeak in the front door that was driving me crazy." Patricia smiled thinly. How fortunate to have an in-house handyman. Later, while helping clear dishes, I overheard Tyler in the hallway, speaking to one of his colleagues. "No, he's just staying with us until he finds a retirement home or something. It's temporary." Amanda felt obligated since he helped with the down payment. The words hit me like a physical blow. Obligated, temporary. Not the warm family arrangement that had been described when we made our plans. Over the next few days, I threw myself into apartment hunting with renewed determination. Meanwhile, I continued trying to help around the house, fixing a leaking faucet and resealing some grout in the guest bathroom. One afternoon, I was weeding the flower beds when Tyler arrived home early. He stood watching me for a moment before speaking. "Sean, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we were thinking of hiring a landscaping service. Amanda and I have a specific aesthetic in mind for the garden." "I'm just pulling weeds," I replied, confused. The flowers were getting choked out. "Yes, well, we're considering a complete redesign anyway. Very modern, minimal maintenance. I've got a landscape architect coming next week to discuss options." I nodded and put down my garden trowel. "Whatever you think is best. It's your house." Tyler smiled, seemingly relieved by my acquiescence. "Exactly. We want to put our own stamp on it, you know? Make it reflect our taste and lifestyle." That evening, Amanda mentioned they were thinking of renovating the kitchen, despite it being only 3 years old, according to the disclosure documents. "What's wrong with the kitchen?" I asked, genuinely puzzled. "It looks brand new." "The marble is too high maintenance," Amanda explained, "and the cabinet style is already looking dated. Tyler and I are thinking quartz countertops and more contemporary cabinetry." "That sounds expensive," I commented carefully, "especially right after buying the house." Tyler shrugged. "We need to make it our own. Plus, it's an investment in the property value." I wanted to point out that frequent renovations rarely recoup their costs, but I bit my tongue. It wasn't my house, as Tyler had made clear, and it appeared it wasn't my home either, despite what had been promised. The breaking point came unexpectedly on a Sunday afternoon, about a month after I had moved in. I was in the kitchen preparing a pot of chili, my specialty, and something Amanda had always loved growing up. I thought it would be a nice gesture, a taste of home amid the tension I had been feeling. Amanda came in while I was chopping onions. She watched silently for a moment before speaking. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Making my famous chili," I replied with forced cheer. "Thought it would be nice for dinner tonight." She frowned. "Tyler and I were planning to go out with friends tonight. And actually, we talked about this. We were going to renovate the kitchen next month. And we really want to keep everything pristine until then. I'll clean up thoroughly, I promised. You won't even know I was cooking in here. That's not the point." Her voice had an edge I rarely heard. "This is our kitchen, Dad. Our house. Our rules." I turned off the burner and faced her. "Amanda, I'm just making dinner. I'm not damaging anything." "But you didn't ask," she insisted. "You just take over spaces without considering what we want." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I thought this was supposed to be a family home. That's how you described it when you asked me to sell my house and give you $200,000. Tyler chose that moment to enter the kitchen, immediately sensing the tension. "Everything okay in here?" Amanda turned to him. "Dad's upset because I asked him not to cook in our kitchen without checking with us first." Tyler nodded sympathetically. "I can see how that might be a generational difference. Sean, in our household, We generally coordinate these things. Amanda and I have a specific meal plan we follow. Generational difference? I repeated, incredulous. This isn't about generations. This is about basic courtesy and about agreements that were made when I gave you the money to buy this house. Tyler's expression hardened slightly. The money was a gift, Sean. It doesn't entitle you to do whatever you want in our home. A gift? Now I was truly stunned. We agreed it was a loan, and we agreed I would stay here comfortably while finding my own place. Amanda crossed her arms. Dad, we're grateful for your help with the down payment. Really, we are. But this arrangement isn't working out the way we expected. What arrangement exactly? I asked, my voice quiet but firm. The one where I gave you my life savings and you promised to welcome me into your home? Or some other arrangement I wasn't informed about? Don't be dramatic, Amanda sighed. It wasn't your life savings. You still have your Social Security, and you had the proceeds from your house sale, most of which I gave to you, I reminded her. $200,000. Money I spent 40 years saving. Tyler stepped forward, his voice taking on a patronizing tone. Sean, we appreciate the gift, but my father always says gifts don't come with strings attached. That's what makes them gifts. This wasn't a gift, I insisted. It was a loan, with the understanding that I would stay here until I found a suitable place in Seattle. A place that, by the way, is proving very difficult to afford on my remaining funds. Amanda threw up her hands in frustration. See, this is exactly the problem. You act like we owe you something beyond gratitude. This is our home now, Dad. We need our space and privacy. I've been staying in the basement, I pointed out. I've been trying to help around the house. I've been looking for apartments every day. But you're always here, she countered. Always fixing things we didn't ask you to fix. Always offering opinions on our decisions. It's suffocating. I stared at my daughter, barely recognizing the woman before me. Amanda, what's happened to you? This isn't how I raised you to treat people, especially family. Her face flushed with anger. Don't you dare question my character. We've been more than generous letting you stay this long. But it's time for you to find your own place. Immediately. Where exactly do you suggest I go? I asked. The cheapest apartments I've found would take most of my monthly income. That's not our problem, Tyler interjected coldly. You should have thought about that before giving away money you couldn't afford to part with. Something inside me went very still at his words. The final illusion shattered. They had never intended for me to stay. The money had never been considered a loan. I had been manipulated by my own daughter and her husband, used for my savings and then discarded. I see, I said quietly. I understand the situation perfectly now. Amanda must have heard something in my voice, because her expression shifted from anger to uncertainty. Dad, we're not saying you have to leave this minute, just that you need to accelerate your plans. I shook my head. No, I think your position is quite clear. This is your house, your rules. Exactly, Tyler nodded, seemingly relieved. I'm glad you understand. Then I'll pack my things, I said, turning back to the stove to turn it off completely. Amanda looked suddenly uncomfortable. Dad, don't be hasty. We can discuss timeline. I don't think there's anything left to discuss, I replied. You've made your feelings perfectly clear. Fine, she snapped, her momentary discomfort replaced by renewed anger. If that's how you want to be, get out. You're not welcome here anymore. I looked at my daughter for a long moment, seeing a stranger wearing her face. Then, to their evident surprise, I smiled. I'll be gone within the hour. As I descended to the basement to pack my meager belongings, I heard them whispering urgently in the kitchen. I didn't care what they were saying. A strange calm had settled over me, along with the certainty that I had just witnessed the true character of these two people. Packing took less than 30 minutes. Most of my life remained in boxes stacked in one corner of the basement, never fully unpacked. I loaded everything into my aging Toyota Camry, making 2 trips from the basement to the driveway. Amanda stood in the doorway watching, her arms crossed defensively. Where will you go? She finally asked, a hint of concern creeping into her voice. "I'll figure it out," I replied calmly. "I always do." Tyler appeared behind her. "If you need a hotel recommendation, there are several budget options near the airport." I nearly laughed at the absurdity of his offer. "Thank you, but I'll manage." As I closed the trunk on the last of my belongings, Amanda stepped forward. "Dad, this doesn't have to be so dramatic. We can stay in touch, maybe have dinner sometimes." I looked at my daughter, memorizing her face. "Perhaps someday, but not soon." "You're overreacting," she insisted. "This is just about living arrangements." "No," I replied gently. "This is about character and choices, yours and mine." I got into my car and started the engine. Through the window, I saw confusion on their faces, clearly puzzled by my composure and the slight smile that remained on my lips. As I pulled away from the house they had purchased with my money, I felt a curious mixture of heartbreak and relief. The heartbreak was for the daughter I thought I knew. The relief came from a place they couldn't possibly understand yet. I checked into a modest motel near downtown Seattle, paying for a week up front. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. My own child had betrayed me, had taken my money, and then discarded me when I was no longer useful. The pain was almost physical, a burning ache behind my sternum. That evening, my phone buzzed with messages from mutual friends and distant relatives. Apparently, Amanda and Tyler were already spinning their version of events, describing me as intrusive and difficult to live with. According to them, I had expected to move in permanently and had tried to take over their home. Amanda claimed she had tried everything to make it work, but my stubborn, old-fashioned ways had made cohabitation impossible. I didn't bother responding to any of the messages. Some truths cannot be explained. They can only be lived. And I knew something that Amanda and Tyler didn't. This story was far from over. The first week in the motel drained more of my limited funds than I had anticipated. Seattle's cost of living shocked me, from the $9 coffees to the $15 sandwiches. By day 6, I had secured a small studio apartment in a modest building about 30 minutes outside the city center. The rent was $1,800 per month, which would consume nearly all of my Social Security check. The security deposit and first month's rent took another significant chunk from my remaining savings. The apartment was clean but sparse. A combined living and sleeping area, a tiny kitchenette, and a bathroom where you could practically brush your teeth while showering due to the limited space. After the grandeur of Amanda and Tyler's house, it felt like a closet, but it was mine, and there was a certain peace in that knowledge. With housing secured, I needed income. My retirement plans had been based on having significantly more savings and a paid-off home. Now, I needed to re-enter the workforce at 69. I updated my resume, emphasizing my construction knowledge and management experience, and began applying for positions. The rejections came quickly, most employers not even bothering with interviews once they calculated my age from my work history. No one explicitly mentioned age discrimination, but the patterns were clear enough. After 2 weeks of fruitless applications, I lowered my expectations and applied at a local hardware store. The manager, a woman in her 50s named Barbara, recognized the value of my experience and offered me 25 hours per week at $16 an hour. "Most of our customers need advice as much as they need hardware," she explained. "Your construction background is worth its weight in gold around here." The job was physically demanding for someone my age, requiring regular lifting and long periods standing on concrete floors. But it provided structure to my days and supplemented my Social Security enough to cover basic living expenses. I was careful with every dollar, shopping sales and cooking simple meals at home rather than eating out. Amanda sent occasional text messages, brief and superficial inquiries about my well-being. I responded politely but briefly, never initiating contact myself. The wound was still too raw, the betrayal too complete for anything more. Tyler never contacted me at all. About a month after moving out of their house, I received an unexpected call from Jack Morrison, an old friend who worked as a real estate attorney in Seattle. We had known each other for decades having met on a construction project where he was handling the legal work for the developer. "Sean," he said when I answered the phone, "I've been trying to track you down. Got a minute to talk?" We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near my workplace the following day. Jack looked much the same as I remembered, though his hair had gone completely gray, and the lines around his eyes had deepened. He bought us both coffee and led me to a quiet corner table. "I heard about what happened with Amanda and Tyler," he began. "Word gets around in certain circles, and Tyler's father is well known in my industry." I nodded but said nothing, unsure where this conversation was heading. "The thing is," Jack continued, leaning forward, "something didn't add up in the story that was circulating, so I did a little digging. I still have contacts at most of the title companies in town." "What kind of digging?" I asked. My interest piqued. "I looked up the deed and mortgage on their new house," he replied. "And Sean, there's something you should know. Your name is still on both documents, as a co-owner with right of survivorship." I stared at him, processing this information. That can't be right. I wasn't at the closing. I didn't sign anything except the wire transfer for the $200,000. Jack nodded. "That's what makes it interesting. According to my contact, Amanda brought in a power of attorney document, supposedly signed by you, giving her the right to sign on your behalf. She told the title company you were ill and couldn't attend in person." "I never signed any power of attorney," I said, my mind racing. "I suspected as much," Jack replied grimly. "The signature on file looks questionable to my eye. But here's the important part. Legally, you own 1/3 of that house, and you're on the hook for the mortgage if they default." This revelation stunned me into silence. Finally, I managed to ask, "What does this mean practically?" "It means several things," Jack explained. "First, they can't sell the property without your signature. Second, you have legal right to occupy the premises as an owner. Third, if they fail to make mortgage payments, it affects your credit as well as theirs." "Can they remove my name somehow?" I asked. "Not without your consent," Jack assured me. "They would need you to sign a quitclaim deed transferring your interest to them. And given the circumstances, I strongly advise against doing that unless you receive fair compensation for your ownership share." I sat back in my chair, trying to absorb the implications. This feels like some kind of cosmic justice, but I'm not sure what to do with this information. "You don't have to do anything immediately," Jack advised, "but I recommend keeping this knowledge to yourself for now. It may prove valuable leverage in the future." After meeting with Jack, I began researching Tyler's background more thoroughly. Using the public computers at the local library, I searched for information about his professional history and financial dealings. What I discovered was troubling. Before joining his father's investment firm, Tyler had been involved with 2 failed business ventures. Both had ended with angry investors and allegations of mismanagement, though no formal charges had ever been filed. His father had apparently used connections to smooth things over and bring his son into the family business, where he could be more closely supervised. Even more concerning were rumors about Harold Wilson's investment strategies. Several financial blogs mentioned unusually high returns that seemed disconnected from market performance. One article specifically questioned the firm's heavy promotion of certain real estate investment trusts that predominantly featured properties developed by Harold's former business partners. I wasn't a financial expert, but even I could recognize the warning signs of potential impropriety. As I continued my research, I discovered that Tyler had recently been promoted to director of a new division, focusing on alternative investment strategies for high net worth clients. The timing coincided with a significant economic slowdown in Seattle's tech sector, which had previously fueled much of the city's prosperity. The more I learned, the more concerned I became, not just for my own financial entanglement with Amanda and Tyler, but for the broader implications. The housing market in Seattle had begun showing signs of weakness, with properties staying on the market longer and price reductions becoming more common. If economic conditions worsened, highly leveraged homeowners like Amanda and Tyler could find themselves in a precarious position. I consulted with a financial advisor, careful not to mention names or specific situations. He confirmed my suspicions. In a declining market, properties purchased near the peak with minimal down payments were particularly vulnerable. Many recent buyers had stretched themselves thin, counting on continued appreciation and career advancement to make their ambitious purchases sustainable. Armed with this knowledge, I made a strategic decision. I would wait and watch. My name on the deed and mortgage was both a liability and an asset. If Amanda and Tyler continued making payments and building equity, I would eventually approach them about formalizing our arrangement. If not, I would be prepared to protect my interests. In the meantime, I focused on rebuilding my life. The hardware store job became unexpectedly rewarding as I developed relationships with regular customers who valued my advice. I joined a community center near my apartment, making new friends through their senior activities program. I even started volunteering on weekends with a nonprofit that helped low-income homeowners with critical repairs. Throughout this period, news reports increasingly featured stories about trouble at several Seattle investment firms, including vague references to regulatory investigations. I noticed Harold Wilson's name mentioned in some of these articles, though always in carefully worded contexts that avoided direct accusations. One evening, I received a text from Amanda that seemed more urgent than her usual check-ins. "Dad, can we talk soon? Some things are happening that I'd like to discuss with you." I replied simply, "I'm available tomorrow after 5. She didn't respond that night, but I knew the first tremors of what was coming had begun to reach her. I slept more soundly than I had in months. 3 months after I had moved out of Amanda and Tyler's house, the economic downturn that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted into a full-blown crisis. The tech sector, which had propped up Seattle's economy for years, began announcing significant layoffs. Housing prices, which had seemed permanently ascendant, started a steady decline. But the biggest shock came from the financial sector. The Seattle Times ran a front-page story about investigations into several local investment firms for suspected securities fraud and mismanagement. Harold Wilson's company featured prominently in the report, with allegations of misleading investors about risk levels and improper commingling of funds. The article mentioned that trading of the firm's publicly listed shares had been temporarily suspended, pending further investigation. Within days, more details emerged. Harold Wilson had been arrested on charges related to financial misconduct. The firm was placed under external management, and most employees were put on leave while auditors examined the books. Tyler, as a director and family member, was specifically named in several follow-up articles, though no charges against him had yet been filed. I followed these developments with a mixture of vindication and sadness. No matter what had happened between us, Amanda was still my daughter, and this public humiliation and financial uncertainty would be devastating for her. Sure enough, my phone rang the day after Tyler's name appeared in the news. Amanda's voice sounded strained and tired. "Dad, things are really difficult right now. Could we meet somewhere to talk?" We arranged to meet at a coffee shop midway between our homes. When Amanda arrived, I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, confident woman who had dismissed me from her home. In her place was someone whose eyes darted nervously around the room, whose clothes looked slept in, whose hands trembled slightly as she held her coffee cup. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice small. I didn't know who else to call. "What's happening, Amanda?" I asked gently. She took a deep breath. "Everything's falling apart. Tyler lost his job when the firm was shut down. My company downsized last week, and I was cut to part-time. We can't make the mortgage payment this month, and the bank won't work with us because of Tyler's connection to the investigation." I nodded, having anticipated something like this. "I'm sorry you're going through this. What are you thinking of doing?" "We've listed the house for sale," she replied, a catch in her voice. "But the market's terrible. The best offer we've received is $580,000, and we owe $620 on the mortgage. We'd have to bring money to closing, which we don't have." "That's a difficult situation," I acknowledged. careful not to reveal what I knew about my name on the deed and mortgage. "Dad," she said, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes, "I know we treated you terribly. What we did was wrong on every level. But I don't know what to do now. We're going to lose everything." Part of me wanted to immediately offer help, to rush in and rescue my child as I had done her entire life. But another part, the part that had been healing these past months, recognized that this was a crucial moment for all of us. "I need some time to think about this," I said finally. "Can we meet again in a few days? Perhaps with Tyler present as well?" Amanda looked surprised but nodded. "Of course. Thank you for even considering helping us after everything." 3 days later, we met at the same coffee shop. Tyler looked even worse than Amanda had, his formerly confident demeanor replaced by a haunted expression and nervous mannerisms. He could barely meet my eyes as we sat down. "Mr. Reynolds," he began, using my surname for the first time since I'd known him, "I want to apologize for my behavior. I was arrogant and disrespectful. You deserve better, especially after your generosity." I acknowledged his apology with a nod, but moved directly to business. "Amanda tells me you're in danger of foreclosure. What's your current financial situation exactly?" They exchanged glances before Tyler responded. "My father's assets have been frozen, including my trust fund. Amanda's reduced income covers basic expenses, but not the mortgage. We've missed one payment already, and next month's is due in 2 weeks. We have about $8,000 in savings left." "And the house?" I asked. "No better offers since you listed it?" Amanda shook her head. "It's gotten worse. Our realtor says we might need to drop the price to $550,000 to generate serious interest. We'd be underwater by $70,000. I took a sip of my coffee, allowing the moment to stretch out. Then I placed a folder on the table between us. I had an interesting conversation with my friend Jack Morrison recently. He's a real estate attorney here in Seattle. Tyler's eyes widened slightly at the mention of the attorney's name. "Jack discovered something curious about your house purchase," I continued, opening the folder to reveal copies of the deed and mortgage documents. "It seems my name is on both the deed and the mortgage. According to these records, I own 1/3 of your house, and I'm equally responsible for the loan." Amanda gasped. "That's impossible. You weren't at the closing." "Someone signed on my behalf," I replied evenly, using what appears to be a forged power of attorney document. Tyler went pale. "Mr. Reynolds, I swear I didn't know about this. The paperwork was handled by my father's people." "Regardless of who knew what," I continued, "this is our current legal reality. I own part of your house, and I'm liable for a loan that's now in jeopardy of default." Amanda began to cry softly. "Dad, I'm so sorry. We'll figure something out. Maybe bankruptcy." "I have a different proposal," I interrupted, pulling out another document. "This is a revised ownership agreement that Jack helped me draft. It would formalize my 1/3 ownership of the property and establish clear terms for our arrangement going forward." "What arrangement?" Tyler asked cautiously. "I'll move back into the house, specifically into the basement apartment we originally discussed," I explained. "I'll contribute 1/3 of the mortgage payment each month, which should allow you to keep the property while you rebuild your finances. In exchange, I get legal right of occupancy and protection of my investment." They stared at me in disbelief. Finally, Amanda spoke. "You would do that? After how we treated you?" "I'm not doing it for you," I said truthfully. "I'm protecting my financial interests and securing housing for myself. The current arrangement leaves me vulnerable if you default, which seems increasingly likely." Tyler studied the document carefully. "This seems fair, actually. More than fair considering the circumstances." "There are conditions," I added. "Complete financial transparency between all parties. No renovations or major expenditures without unanimous agreement. And family counseling, which I'm willing to pay for." Amanda looked up, surprise evident on her face. "Family counseling?" "Yes." I nodded. "If we're going to live under one roof again, we need to address what happened and why. I'm not interested in punishment or recrimination, but I do want understanding." They exchanged glances again, communicating silently in that way couples develop. Then Tyler nodded. "We accept your terms. All of them." "Good," I said, closing the folder. "Jack will finalize the paperwork tomorrow. I can move in this weekend." As I stood to leave, Amanda reached for my hand. "Dad, why are you really doing this? You could have reported the forged documents or sued us." I looked at my daughter, seeing both the woman who had betrayed me and the child I had always loved, because some things are more important than money or pride. But don't mistake kindness for weakness. This is your second chance, not your third. Moving back into the basement of Amanda and Tyler's house felt strange at first, like stepping into a familiar room where all the furniture had been rearranged. There was an awkwardness to our interactions, a cautious politeness that bordered on formality. We moved around each other carefully, like dancers who had forgotten the steps to a once familiar routine. I had my own entrance installed, providing independence I hadn't had during my first stay. The basement was properly renovated into a legitimate apartment with improved lighting, a kitchenette, and a full bathroom. These improvements were modest compared to what Amanda and Tyler had originally planned for the house, but they reflected our new financial reality. The first family counseling session was uncomfortable for everyone. The therapist, a compassionate woman named Dr. Winters, created a safe space for difficult truths to emerge. Amanda admitted she had felt entitled to my financial help because of her childhood as an only child. Tyler confessed that his father had encouraged him to manage the old man to secure the down payment, advice that now filled him with shame given Harold's current legal troubles. I grew up believing that success meant appearances and acquisitions, Tyler explained during one particularly emotional session. My father taught me that everything and everyone was a resource to be leveraged. I never questioned it until I lost everything. For my part, I acknowledged my own role in enabling Amanda's sense of entitlement by rarely setting firm boundaries. I had tried to compensate for Sarah's absence by giving Amanda whatever she wanted, inadvertently teaching her that love meant never hearing no. The economic realities of our situation enforced a new simplicity on all our lives. Tyler found employment at an entry-level position with a small financial services company, earning less than half his previous salary. His new boss was aware of his connection to the Wilson scandal, but believed in second chances, having weathered his own professional disgrace years earlier. Amanda increased to full-time at her marketing job after several months, though with no promotion or raise. They sold one of their cars and dramatically reduced their spending on restaurants, clothing, and travel. The designer furniture pieces were gradually replaced with more practical items as they broke or wore out. I continued working at the hardware store, finding satisfaction in the honest labor and genuine appreciation from customers. My Social Security plus my modest salary covered my share of the mortgage and expenses, even allowing me to build a small savings cushion again. About 6 months into our new arrangement, Amanda knocked on my door one evening. When I invited her in, she seemed nervous, twisting her wedding ring as she sat on my sofa. "Dad, I need to tell you something," she began. "Tyler and I are expecting a baby." The news caught me off guard. "A baby? That's wonderful news, Amanda." "Is it?" she asked, uncertainty in her voice. "We're still rebuilding financially. The house is still underwater. Is it selfish to bring a child into this situation?" I moved to sit beside her. "Having a child is always an act of hope. Your mother and I had even less when you came along, and it was the best decision we ever made." "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not just about money, but about what kind of mother I'll be. I've been so selfish, so focused on appearances and status. What if I can't give this child what they need?" "The fact that you're asking these questions tells me you'll be just fine," I assured her. "Perfect parents don't exist, but self-aware ones have a fighting chance." As Amanda's pregnancy progressed, I witnessed a transformation in both her and Tyler. They began researching parenting philosophies and child development, having thoughtful discussions about values they wanted to instill. They created a nursery in the smallest bedroom, painting it themselves and furnishing it with second-hand items they restored together. Tyler's evolution was particularly striking. The formerly status-conscious young man now spent weekends at community workshops, learning practical skills like basic plumbing and furniture repair. He spoke less about career advancement and more about work-life balance and creating security for his growing family. One Saturday morning, Amanda knocked on my door again. "Dad, we're setting up the nursery today. Tyler's assembling the crib, but he could use some help. Would you mind?" Working alongside Tyler that day, passing tools and sharing knowledge, I felt the last of my resentment dissolve. We weren't just fixing a living arrangement or legal entanglement. We were rebuilding a family. "I never thanked you properly," Tyler said, as we finished tightening the last bolt on the crib. "Not just for the second chance with the house, but for showing me what real success looks like." "And what's that?" I asked, curious about his perspective. "Integrity," he replied simply. "Doing the right thing, even when it costs you. Standing by family, even when they fail you. That's the kind of success I want my child to see." When my granddaughter Lily was born, the transformation was complete. Holding that tiny bundle in the hospital, watching Amanda and Tyler's faces glow with tired joy, I understood that sometimes life's greatest blessings emerge from our deepest wounds. Over the next year, our household found a rhythm that worked for everyone. I became grandpa downstairs, always available for baby cuddles or parenting relief. Amanda and Tyler became more confident as parents, more humble as people, and more appreciative of simple pleasures. We shared Sunday dinners as a family, a tradition I had always wanted but never quite managed to establish when Amanda was growing up. The housing market eventually stabilized, and our property began to regain some of its lost value. We had discussions about selling once we reached break-even point, but ultimately decided to stay. The house had transformed from a status symbol into a genuine home, one filled with laughter, occasional tears, and the messy reality of 3 generations living in proximity. Harold Wilson was eventually convicted of securities fraud and sentenced to 8 years in prison. Tyler visited his father monthly, a difficult pilgrimage that he undertook out of duty rather than affection. These visits often left him quiet and reflective, but they were part of his commitment to facing reality rather than avoiding uncomfortable truths. As for me, I found an unexpected peace in this chapter of life. The betrayal I had experienced, painful as it was, had forced me to stand up for myself in ways I never had before. It had revealed strengths I didn't know I possessed, and values I hadn't articulated even to myself. Money, I realized, was never the true source of security. Relationships were, particularly those built on honesty and mutual respect rather than obligation or manipulation. The materialism that had briefly corrupted my daughter hadn't originated with her. It was a cultural illness that affected countless families, leading them to mistake possessions for prosperity and status for success. The most valuable thing I could pass on to my granddaughter wasn't financial wealth, but this hard-won wisdom. That true richness comes from knowing what's enough, from creating boundaries that protect without isolating, and from the courage to begin again when life collapses around you. One evening, as I sat on the porch watching Lily take wobbly steps across the lawn while Amanda and Tyler cheered her on, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the painful journey that had brought us here. Sometimes you have to lose everything material to find what truly matters. Sometimes relationships must break completely before they can be rebuilt stronger. Would I have chosen this path? Never. But standing on the other side of betrayal and reconciliation, I wouldn't trade the authentic family we had become for the superficial one we once were. If you've stayed with me through this story, I wonder what you would have done in my position. Would you have walked away completely after the betrayal, or found a way to rebuild, as I did? Would you have demanded repayment of the money, or recognized that some debts can never be repaid with currency? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Your support helps me continue sharing these life lessons from my journey. And remember, sometimes the most powerful words aren't "I forgive you," but "I have boundaries, and I still choose you." Thank you for listening, and until next time, treasure the relationships that matter most.